lost their lives to protect our freedoms, man. So shout out to all that serve, but we do pay our honor and our homage to those that gave their lives and anybody that has experienced that loss as well. But got to get into all NBA teams.
NBA teams. And I think a good way to set this up, and well said about Memorial Day, by the way. I obviously echo all of those sentiments because that's one of those days where you remember why you have that day off. And I know we all enjoyed our time, but unfortunately, too many had to pay the ultimate sacrifice. So, hey, absolutely. But before we get into what I and others have a problem with, JB, if you would like to just put the all NBA teams up one by one, starting with the first team. Because
first team?
I think there's some interesting things we could get out of all of them. First team, you've got Giannis, SGA, Jokic, Donovan Mitchell, and Jason Tatum. Does anybody have any issues with that?
It's fair, especially when you look at the regular season results. This is pretty fair.
I disagree with Donovan Mitchell personally. I would have put either Anthony Edwards or CADE Cunningham. But
I think I agree with you. I agree
more
with you
on that
that
in just a second. But you know what? I'll say Ant Edwards because I'll give him that. In the hierarchy of NBA players, he's still a better player for now than a CADE Cunningham. I'll say Ant Edwards should have been on the first team. But other than that, the other four, I don't think there's really any argument. But how about the second team, JB?
Second team?
Yes.
I don't know why this quality is so terrible, but
it's not bad.
If we're just talking about where I think people should go versus how I know media does things, the way I know media does things, all of these three teams shaped up exactly the way Rod warned us that it would. In terms of how I would put things, of course there's some bones to pick. I told you guys from the beginning of the season I thought Donovan Mitchell was a fraud and that he was the reason why the Cleveland Cavaliers fell apart, not J.B. Bickerstaff. When we looked at how this team fell apart again this past season, and that to me is where I look at, if we're talking about it from that standpoint, then yes, I 100% agree with you. If it was me, I would do the crazy thing of doing something that nobody would probably even think is should be done, and I would like punt Donovan Mitchell to the moon in terms of one of these stars, one of these best ofs. I just don't think he's that dude, and when the bright lights are the brightest. And this is something that I know CADE Cunningham is going to have to prove, as now he's just starting to get a taste of what it means to be the man with all the playoff pressure on you. But when you look at who Donovan Mitchell has been, I think that at the very least, this is the last year that he's going to be able to ride by the regular season success being the only narrative that's in the backs of the minds of voters. Now, especially with how you see this thing has gone a couple years in a row.
And for the record, with Donovan Mitchell, I would absolutely put him on the second team. I'm not saying he had a bad year. Far from it. He was fantastic, and we know Cleveland had a exemplary regular season, which made what they did in the playoffs that much more painful, and you just hate to see it. But as far as the second team goes, I mean, I already told you I'd swap Anthony Edwards for Donovan Mitchell. Personally, Jalen Brunson, I'm cool with. Evan Mobley, I'm cool with. LeBron, I understand what happened to the Lakers in the playoffs, but he's still putting up just superstar numbers at age 40. And the Lakers, even despite some... He played a lot more games than you think in which he was the one star. AD had some injuries. Obviously, Luka, when he first got traded, he was not healthy right off the rip. So I'm cool with him. Mobley's interesting. I think when you look at the third team, you'll see why Mobley was on it. Although I think there's a good argument for Shane Goon as well, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that's when I've become definitely a growing fan of Alperen Sengun, especially as the All-Star game was approaching. And when he got announced, that was one of the players of interest that was a non-Piston that I wanted to be able to kind of follow around a little bit. And that's a player that I do think has a really, really good, obviously future ahead of him. The way things lay out, Evan Mobley, and maybe I just hate the Cavs, I still believe that he's a little bit overrated, but you're right. The way that the teams, not that he's not good, but I believe he's a little bit overrated. But the way that the teams lay out, I agree with you. You'll kind of see why things went the way that they did. But on that second team, I do kind of agree with a Chuck Brewer. With LeBron James, I could have seen a world, and I just don't think that the NBA is going to do it, where you could have dropped him to that All-NBA third team. I do agree with you. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell is somebody who, in a perfect world, if you're talking about CADE Cunningham potentially having a claim to first team, I do believe that there's a perfect world where Donovan Mitchell could have been on the third team. But I get it because of how many wins they had in the regular season and how he's a regular season merchant. He's going to always come up in these types of conversations, and it's going to be a very uncomfortable conversation to say to demote him. But if there is a couple players who I do believe are above where they probably should be, it would start with people, in my opinion, Donovan Mitchell, LeBron James, and Steph Curry.
Interesting that you mentioned Steph Curry, because more on that in a second.
JB's smile just went away.
If you would like,
he just glared at me.
Yeah.
Actually, JB's looking kind of gangster.
we are
right
going to get JB Smooth's opinion before anybody's.
JB
I
looking
promise.
rough right now.
Yeah.
JB rough.
But can you please put up the third team?
Oh, yeah, I got you.
All right, so we've got CADE Cunningham, Tyrese Halliburton, James Harden, Karl Anthony Towns, and Jalen Williams. And first off, when you see the third team, this is where, first off, swap Cat for Evan Mobley, please. I know a lot of you still like to comment on his zestiness, but he had a phenomenal regular
I
season.
think Evan Mobley is overrated.
Fair
I'm
enough.
just going to continue to say that.
When you see this, so honestly,
Wow.
I do.
I'd probably, you know what, honestly, after this,
Okay.
put Shane Goon on the third team and leave Evan Mobley off of it. And I respect the hell out of Evan Mobley, but
So we're getting at least one kind of player
Yes.
out of all the All-NBA teams. Then cool, I'm with you.
and this is where can we at least see my point of view on why LeBron James, I think he deserves second team, because look at who was on the third team. I understand Jalen Williams was nice, and James Harden had a great regular season. Obviously, Halliburton deserves it, but I think LeBron is right where he belongs on the second team. If there were more strong forward competition, like if Kawhi Leonard would have played the whole season, then maybe I could be like, but to me, I think LeBron deserved the second
And I
team.
want to be able to, like, when I kind of do my comparisons, I know that CADE Cunningham definitely, in my opinion, and you can look at the numbers, the usage will tell you this too, he did a lot more for his squad and the success they had this year overall than what LeBron James had to do for the Lakers, despite the fact that he had some pretty nice numbers. We know that Cade's numbers this year are only comparable to one player, and that is Nikola Jokic, who made first team. The distinction that they share, well, they don't have any teammates that are winding up on any all-star lists. They don't have any teammates that might wind up on some of these all-NBA lists, like you see with Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns. And that, to me, is where, when I look at these lists, to me, I know the balance that they're trying to play as it relates to, how good the individual player is, the success that team did have, even if it's not better than someone else's, and who that player is in terms of history. I do believe that there is some notion when you look at this list of who these players have been in the history of basketball, who they've been recently, even though it's supposed to just be a regular season award. Rod is right when he says media is focused into a lot of these players that make that play in these larger markets, that have had longevity of success, and there is a certain level of trust that you probably give in a nod of a LeBron James or a Steph Curry over a CADE Cunningham, who the Pistons, for as much as I hate saying it, before this historic run towards the playoffs and the 6th seed, doing things that no team has ever done from 14 to 44, that 14 represents the lowest wins in franchise history in a season where they did break the losing streak record. And I do wonder sometimes how much of that type of stuff is what they're going to have to continue to punch through. And I'm glad that that's not what they necessarily play for. I know CADE is playing to be the best. He did say that. He wants all the awards. So when people state, well, these things don't really matter either, CADE is going out there on every podium and stated it. I want to be the face of the league. I want every award, and I want every metric or award that proves or says that I want it. And if I don't have it, then I'm not doing enough. Hey, great. You averaged the same thing as Nikola Jokic, and you had unprecedented success. So if these are the types of things that also add to the level of motivation for CADE Cunningham, yes, because I do believe he was snubbed, but I understand how these things go. Snubbed from second team.
Yeah.
To be included with their top 15 teams, how these things go. It might not 15 players based on the way their criteria is for All-NBA. It's nice to see a Detroit Piston there, not from this perspective. Okay, we're just saying that you guys had a cute season. Bye-bye. That was what happened with Blake Griffin. We don't even think you're going to be back. That's what happened with Andre Drummond when they made the same distinction With CADE Cunningham, though, this is the first one who's made this All-NBA team in some time that I know, without a shadow of a doubt, is going to move up these teams in the coming years, preferably and probably as soon as next season. I expect, and I know we will see CADE Cunningham on All-NBA second team. Well, I know that.
Yeah, and this is where we're going to get down into the nitty-gritty, because I do not believe that CADE Cunningham should replace LeBron James on the second team. I believe that CADE Cunningham should be on the All-NBA second team instead of one Mr. Steph Curry. And before I get over to JB Smoove, and I'm not even going to say that because I don't want to accuse anybody of anything. This is not a Lifetime Achievement Award. I don't have to do this, but I'll do it. Steph Curry, obviously champion, finals MVP, one of the greatest players we've ever seen, the greatest shooter any of us have ever seen. However, this is not a Lifetime Achievement. It was based off of this past season. And in my opinion, CADE Cunningham did more for the Pistons' success than Steph Curry did to the Warriors' success. And furthermore, when you look at some of the numbers, preferably things like points, assists, rebounds per game, field goal percentage, not effective field goal percentage, but just field goal percentage, CADE Cunningham has Steph Curry beat in all of them. So I have to ask you, JB Smoove, are you happy with Steph being second team and CADE being third?
If I have to be honest, I'm happy for my boy Steph. Obviously running with the second team. He didn't do a whole lot this season to obviously make first team, but I think CADE has an argument too.
Play speaks every language, crosses every border, and connects every generation. That's why, to celebrate World Play Day,
I don't think it's bad that he drops down to third team, just production-wise, things haven't gone his way, especially in LA.
Take them both off. I know that these are some aging, some older legends, and I know how you guys feel about them, but I'm telling you, this is CADE Cunningham's time. And what he did this year with way less help than either of them, I thought needed to be honored a little bit more. LeBron James, I understand who he is, and you guys have seen my stance soften. I don't necessarily hate him as much as I used to, but I still feel like this was a little bit of a nod of the cap to LeBron James too. He's had some phenomenal teammates this year. Not that the cupboard was bare for CADE this season. I don't know, man. Get them both out of here. Third team for you guys.
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't mind
okay
it.
with that. As long as CADE's on second team, I would put him on second team over both LeBron and Steph for the record, just so people don't think that I have like a pro LeBron and anti Steph bias. I would put CADE over both of them. And JB, I think that was as somebody who you'll admit is a Steph slappy, I think that was a pretty measured answer, because obviously Steph is going to get some cachet.
Yeah.
Because of who he is, and he deserves it. But as far as this year, I don't think he deserves second team over CADE. And one of the reasons why, and I already alluded to it, but just so that there's a visual of the side-by-side numbers, if you've got that JB.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Yes. When I talked about how just on the season, Steph averages more, CADE averages more points per game, assists per game, and rebounds per game, and has a higher field goal percentage, although because of the three-point percentage and the free throw percentage, obviously Steph has him beat in effective field goal percentage, which gives Steph credit for that. But also, and this is something Chuck Brewer mentioned, and I'm glad that you put it in there, because I was getting to it, but you beat me to it. Sam, how good was Golden State before they got Jimmy Butler? That is the mic drop. I will answer that for you. Before the Golden State Warriors got Jimmy Butler, they were 25-26. They were on the verge of not even making the play-in.
Yeah,
and once Jimmy Butler got there, that's when the Golden State Warriors really took off. And even amongst all of that, even with how good that they were with Jimmy Butler and Steph, and for the record, Steph had something to do with it. Steph and Jimmy Butler in the end of the regular season were a really good 1-2 punch. Even amongst all of that, the Golden State Warriors still found their way in the play-in. What are we doing here? Respect to Steph for what he's done, but for this year, CADE should have been awarded with All-NBA second team over Steph Curry. Yeah. I don't think there's really any argument for Steph, besides if you want to say three-point shooting. But that's, even Steph, by his standards, had a poor for him 3-point shooting season.
And I see Lunchbox. Steph was more clutch in games than Cade was. That's the difference, though. When you talk about usage rate, you guys consistently underrate exactly what that means. Cade's carrying a larger portion of the pie. If you're telling me that Steph, in these high-pressure moments, is able to go and be what he needs to be during those times, this is something he's been doing for a long time in his career, and it didn't just start that way. So we tipped the cap to him. I don't take anything away from the great. I'm a big fan of Steph Curry's. But as it relates to who Cade Cunningham is, I'm sorry, the way that this team is currently built, until they find ways to drop his usage from 33.1%, you have to have a player like a Jaden Ivey with him. When Jaden Ivey was there, what did we see Jaden Ivey excelling in? You could see it was part of the game plan. And it was what I've been talking about for almost 3 years up to that point of what needs to happen in those moments to break up what defenses try to do to stop Cade. Defenses used to believe blitz Cade. But what was Jaden Ivey doing? He had a couple chances this time to win a couple games. That didn't go their way. He had a couple opportunities to win some games, and it did go their way. Remember, Ivey had, I think he led the team this year in game-winning shots. And you look at the clutch moments, Jaden Ivey was one of your better players. As soon as that blitz came, they threw it to Jaden Ivey, and it was just downhill, and it was just it. And we saw the Pistons as they kind of picked themselves up from that 0-4 start. It was a lot of that recipe, a lot of that backcourt magic, a lot of the ability that Jaden Ivey had in that backcourt with Cade Cunningham that helped to spur this type of growth. That's where I'm hoping that the Pistons can do a lot to give Jaden Ivey his opportunity to earn it, because I still believe in Jaden Ivey. But that they do make sure that they go and bring in some more players that can help to drop this usage rate around Cade Cunningham and put themselves in a position to where you can get better out of him down the end of the stretch. So he's not as worn, as used, and as tired at the end of games, because stamina matters. Whether it's 2K or whether it is real life, stamina is a real thing, and this has been affecting him. He has to figure this out too. Let me flip the coin. Cade Cunningham's stamina has to get better. Jalen Duren's stamina has to get better. The best person on the team in terms of stamina that I've seen, it seems to be, and this is weird, it seems to be Isaiah Stewart. I give Asar Thompson a pass because I know that he's a gym rat, but he just went through a cardiac situation. So I give him a pass on that. But this team, from a stamina position, they do have to get better as the team looks to find the right players to be able to help bring that usage down for Cade.
And for the record, are you sure that Steph was more clutch this season than Cade? I'm going to do a little bit more research on that, but I don't quite remember Steph being this just like murderous clutch player this season. And no disrespect, like in regular season, I don't put a lot of merit into like clutch regular season stats or anything like that. I just think if you win, you win. No matter how you do it, it's fine. And in the playoffs is really where clutch moments matter. But I'm not so sure about that. I don't think that there really is an argument for Steph being above Cade in the All-NBA team. If it's only because, unless it's just he's Steph Curry, and how dare you put Cade in the same sentence as Steph Curry? That's not the question. The question is this season, who was better, who was more impactful? To me, it was clearly Cade Cunningham, and I think the evidence bears that out.
It does, and I see some people here in the chat, Weezy through and through. Y'all don't want the ball out of his hands. He won't average to 27, 8, and 8. Y'all are so much. This is not about taking the ball out of his hands. This is about reducing how much he has to do and putting players around him that can take even more advantage. So let's put this it's okay. So there's basic math, and then you get into the levels of this thing. You know, you get into your equations, you get into your formulas. Shout out to anybody who's worked with Excel too. All right, with Cade Cunningham, when you get players around him that can take better advantage of the potential assist, because guess what? Cade Cunningham leads there too. Then guess what? You get to drop that usage. Just getting slightly better players around him that can take advantage of that. His 10 assists and 8 and 9 assists a game are coming in situations to where he's having to have like 20 or 30 or 40 opportunities to have those assists. That's the problem. So you get a little bit more around him where people can actually handle this thing more. How many times did you guys look before they got Schroeder and when Ivy got hurt, looked at the backup options and realized they don't even got a point guard? There were times when it was literally Beasley and Ron Holland running down the court with the rock. And we were trying to run combo guard Marcus Sasser. that didn't really work out for this team. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not even talking about making the splash, but you got to do something to make sure that when CADE Cunningham is passing the ball more times than not, you have a better chance to actually cash in on those assists, because now your team doesn't have to go out there and play at a pace of like we're trying to score 150, but we're only coming away with 110, 112 points. You need a squad that can push for 135, 120, and actually hit that. And that's what you see out of some of these other teams. When we talk about the players that did finish above CADE Cunningham, they got those players on their team that will cash in more times than not. And some of those teams have players we're hoping the Pistons take a look at free agency, because on one hand, you'll hear people say this, we need these things because blah, 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 blah. But it's like when they go for the detraction of CADE, they just so happen to also leave that out of the conversation where it all matters. You want him to get better at in-game opportunities. But when he had more around him, this is the correlation, right? When his usage was the lowest and he had some of the best teammates usage-wise around him, Kelly Olynyk, Jeremy Grant were some usage dudes. That's how they operate. What did you see? You saw CADE Cunningham in the top 5 in the NBA, not in rookies, in the entire NBA in clutch point scoring. And you had what? Stars coming out saying that dude is it. So it's like we already have seen just a little bit of what happens, and I do believe that when you make that type of a change, this is a big summer for them, because we're talking about what can CADE Cunningham do, what can the Pistons do to get them to the next level, because the media ain't going to do it. I'm sorry, like they're not waiting back to say, yo, yeah, shout out to those Pistons and CADE. They're not sitting back to do that. It's how it's always been. We go and we take it. And that's where it's on the Pistons and CADE. CADE has to say, look at the season I just had. It's amongst the Nikola Jokic's and this, that, and the other. Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, they pushed the envelope to a new level. CADE has to, in his era, push that envelope to the next level. And that's where, like, from a person who's a fan of his, as much as we cover him, I do want to see him get to those crazy levels. I want to see him be able to get to a point where scoring 30 and getting your 8, 9, 10 assists is like clockwork and it's butter and it's easy, because I think he possesses that much talent. We see the gravity he already attracts. And so that's where, from a player standpoint, I want to see him get there. And from a front office standpoint, they've already shown that they have a recipe, and I think that they're going to push the right buttons this offseason to get them a little bit more. I don't know if this is the offseason of splashes for them, because their pocketbook gets a lot less loose in 2 off seasons from now, but then they're also faced with Duren and Ivy extensions. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But if they make those right moves, I do believe we see CADE Cunningham step into a stratosphere where we see him being one of those game changers that we've seen some of these greats right now on that first team do.
Yeah, and for the record, just to like go back to the clutch thing really quick, you saw CADE Cunningham have plenty of moments, like the Atlanta Hawks game where he had the game-winning layup and the game-winning block. You saw the Heat game, obviously, with the game-winning three-pointer at the buzzer. We saw Game 5 in the playoffs, in which CADE Cunningham really came through in the clutch in the fourth quarter. So I don't want that narrative to really persist, at least as of right now, because I think he's shown enough that he is. But just also, when you look at what was around Golden State, too, I want to like put that out there as well. When they were a game under 500 before Jimmy Butler was there, they had Andrew Wiggins, who was averaging 18 and 5 on 44% from the floor and 38% from behind the arc, and obviously we know what he is as a wing defender. Draymond Green was all NBA defense first team. Brandon Pajemski and Buddy Hield. But Buddy Hield had played 82 games and was 37% from behind the arc.
Brandon Pajemski.
Hey.
You and Rod Beard had an epic crash out on the show over that, man. Still one of the best.
All 11 points a game on a 37% from a behind the arc. But still, as a role player, he was a pretty good complement to Steph. He did miss some games, though. And also Jonathan Kuminga, even though he got basically pulled out of the rotation in the playoffs, and you can tell Steve Kerr doesn't like him. He had some moments in the regular season. Even though he did get hurt, he had some moments in the regular season. So I would say that early season Steph, full season CADE, their help was comparable, and I think even with Steph, you could even argue in some ways it was a little bit better. But I will say, though, Malik Beasley in the regular season, he was damn good help. He was arguably a sixth man of the year. But in the regular season for the Warriors, Draymond Green was first team all defense. Still, even though he's got a bunch of gray in his beard, so he still can play.
And that's what matters here. So we're not even just talking about the usage offensively, but defensively, what did we see CADE doing? Going and picking up also the top guys, too. That's the thing. What were they doing, Jalen Brunson? Like, who ain't guarding CADE? and every time he did, it was barbecue chicken. See, so now that guy, he has the opportunity to not have to guard the star. Jalen Brunson gets the opportunity to not have to do everything. Why? Because we knew they were going to run OG. Where's our, and that's where we're hoping. This is where, internally, before we even start talking about splashes, can Asar be that? We saw him play that role to the point that Cade didn't necessarily have to chase around Brunson for large portions of that game unless they got switched off onto each other. And that's where I want to see the squad and these young players, Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson, and even Jaden Ivey returning from injury. How much more can they step up? Because you don't have that much cap space when you think about it. 24 mil and practical cap space can be used up very, very quickly. Malik Beasley, what if he wants more than that non-taxpayers exception that they have? Well, that's 14 million. What if it gets more and the hometown discount is still a little more than 14, but less than the market of 19 to 20 a year? You see, now all of a sudden you're cutting into that 24 and you don't have much room because you're going to also have a draft pick potentially that you're going to want to be able to bring into that space. Who knows what flexibility you want during the draft to be able to potentially trade back in. It becomes very, 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 very vital, man. But you know what? When just looking at this, just to kind of bring it back full circle to the All-NBA teams, I do believe that this is more than just a nod to Cade Cunningham. I believe this is go out there and do it again. You're right. These aren't supposed to be career awards, but when you look at this thing, you understand how much the impressions that you've left in the minds of media for years, they do matter. And Rod warned us about this. So Cade now gets a seat at the table. And we talked about this with the Tigers. Are they one of those big dog teams or no? This is about now, Cade. Are you Blake Griffin of the Pistons? Are you Andre Drummond of the Pistons? Or are you a better version of Grant Hill for the Pistons? Are you someone who every year you're going to be showing up in these things? Every year you're going to be making the conversations that we're having right now about if he was snubbed or if he should be higher or this or that. Are you running it back or was this just a flash in the pan? Because the NBA right now is telling you, show us something again. That to me is what they're telling me. Show us something again. Cade Cunningham had the most votes for a player in the All-Star game. I believe you have to go back to Grant Hill. You understand he had 110,000 more votes than Blake Griffin?
Yeah, as he should have.
And that's as we just say that, but you think about how many more people know Blake Griffin and how insane of a year he was having for a team that wasn't coming off of that level of putridness. The Pistons had just made the playoffs a couple years before. So it's like you had what you thought to be at least some hope for being a team that can make it at the bottom. So for me, I was pleasantly surprised that Cade went out there and put up over 700,000 fan votes from this area, knowing that it's been much worse. If you go back, you look at the annals of it. It's prime for Cade to take the next step. It's all there for him, and it starts with what he does to improve his own game, and then what the front office does to support him around it. And they've already gotten off to a good start.
Yep, and I know that there's some clamoring for a TLB, and we'll get there. But before we do, Weezy, you knew I was going to catch this, and you stopped yourself. Ivy might be our best player. I'm ready to talk.
No.
And then a couple later, he says, "Nah, I might be tripping." And I'll tell you what. Should we call you Stick D313 instead of Weezy D313? And I'll tell you what, guys. And this is where I'm gonna say something
Sticky D313
might be unpopular. I like Ivy as a player a lot.
Yeah.
His overzealous stands make me want to, bang my head against a table sometimes.
No,
Based on what? Based on what? I'm not saying that he's not good, but, come on, bro. The overzealous Ivy fans, the Ivy bros are just...
Ivy bros.
I
mean,
can't,
here's Johnny says Ivy has more upside. Several Pistons do, and we believe
Several? What are you talking about? Several?
Several.
Oh, my God.
Really?
Guys, what have I always told you about? What have I always told you about? There are certain athletes in this town, and you're already seeing it. I've saw it with Aiden Hutchinson. I've seen it with Riley Green now, and I'm seeing it with Cade Cunningham. There's a certain segment that just cannot wait to turn on these people, and it just makes me love them even more and defend them even more. Several? No. And no to Ivy either. Absolutely not.
We got a TLB. Word to our brother Broder and KG. It's on a TLB. You want a TLB?
I do.
What a voice of reason. Anything else for this discussion or Kavasi and Chase before we move on?
I mean, if anything, I would just change out Donovan Mitchell out of first team, but that's me.
Yeah.
I can't wait till next season. I just hope we really have their number, man. I can't wait. But Kavasi, what about you, man? Overall, you cool with the list? Are they telling our guy?
He made third team. I mean, like, if he would have been snubbed, it would have been a different discussion. But I think this is kind of like I'm coming at it with the same approach like we were talking about with the Tigers going into the weekend. Like, do I want him to be second team? Like, yeah, that's where he deserves to be. But he made third team. Like, I'll sit down. And I won't bitch about it too much. But we know where he should be.
Man, something tell me Kavasi been hanging around the Voice of Reason. It's been facts, man, from that booth. But let's get to this next segment. I know we gotta say what up though to some friends. And you want me to double dip?
Yeah, Lady James and Dr. Pierce.
Hey, let's rock, guys. Let's be honest. We like simple stuff.